This is the story about the California gold rush, or what some called the Rush of '49. It was in 1848 that gold was discovered in California, and within a year of its discovery, immigrants using the California Trail were flooding into the Sierra Nevada range by the thousands. It all started when John Sutter, who was a Swiss immigrant, came to California in 1839 with a dream of building an agricultural empire. When he needed lumber in early 1848, he assigned the task to one of his men, James Marshall. Marshall decided to build a sawmill on the South Fork of the American River, about 40 miles from Sutter's home. Marshall discovered a gold nugget on January 24, 1848, while at the sawmill. He and his men found more gold nearby. Both Marshall and Sutter tried to keep things quiet, but soon word leaked out. Gold fever quickly became an epidemic. Many who already had arrived in California or Oregon immediately gravitated to the Western Sierras. But it wasn't until December of 1848 that President James Polk confirmed the findings to Congress, which meant it was too late to start a trip for Easterners. But by the spring of 1849, the largest migration, 25,000 that year alone, in American history was already taking place. Better than average conditions on the plains and in the desert that spring and summer helped soften the blow of the wave of immigrants. But conditions were harsh at best, and many livestock were lost along the way. Grass and clean water became scarcer as the trip wore on, and diseases like cholera took their toll. Native Indians in particular suffered from the 49ers who streamed across the land. For centuries, these Indians had lived in the West without outside competition for resources. But now the pioneers' lust for wealth was threatening to decimate the Indians through the consumption of foods, lands, water, and space. Many new routes were opened into California as a result of the gold rush. With an estimated 140,000 immigrants arriving in California via the California Trail between 1849 and 1854, routes were continually modified, tested, or even abandoned. The travelers of the California Trail often quipped that if you had seen the elephant, then you had hit some hard traveling. Early immigrants once called the California Trail an elephant due to the difficult journey. If you wanted to get to California in pre-railroad times, you were guaranteed an arduous trek. California immigrants faced the greatest challenges of all the pioneer immigrants of the mid-19th century. It is estimated that 300,000 people migrated toward California to get into the action and strike it rich. The earliest gold seekers were people who lived near California or people who heard the news from ships on the fastest sailing routes from California. There were several thousand Latin Americans, including people from Mexico, from Peru, and from as far away as Chile. Even Australians and New Zealanders who heard about the news from ships carrying Hawaiian newspapers boarded ships for California. At the time of the rush, California was still technically part of Mexico. The area was under American military occupation as the result of the Mexican-American War. After the war ended in February 1848, California became a possession of the United States, but it did not become a state until September 1850. So during this time there was no civil type of government. Of course, this led to a confusing and changing mixture of Mexican rules, American principles, and personal dictates, so when disputes broke out over claims and boundaries, miners would settle things out themselves, and that settlement was quite often with a gun. Most of the mining that took place was alluvial mining. What started out as panning eventually went to rocker boxes and long toms. Soon creeks were diverted and flumes were built to carry water where it was needed. Modern estimates are that as much as 12 million ounces, or 370 tons of gold, were mined out in the first 5 years of the gold rush. Around 1853, miners started hydraulic mining on the creek beds and hillsides. Using water from the flumes and having it diverted into water monitors, a miner could blast tons of overburden away in just minutes. It is estimated that 11 million ounces, or 340 tons of gold, had been recovered by hydraulic mining. There was a lot of gravels from these hillsides that were washed into the valleys, and of course not all of that was mined or processed through sluice runs. You had valleys filled with millions of tons of these gravels just sitting there, and so by the late 1880s, dredging technology started to be used. These large dredges could excavate hundreds of tons of gravels every hour, running 24 hours a day. It is estimated that more than 20 million ounces of gold was recovered just by dredging. That's 620 tons of gold. Soon hard rock mining started to take place from the many quartz veins that were in the mountains. Rock was blasted and crushed, and the gold was separated inside the many mills that were scattered throughout the Sierra Nevada range. However, by the late 1880s, word got out about a big gold strike in Dawson City, Yukon, and many of the stampeders packed up and headed north. There is still small-scale mining that goes on in this area of California today, but it is a lot quieter and a whole lot more low-key. In fact, a lot of people don't even know that gold is still being mined in these parts of California. I hope you enjoyed this short story about the California gold rush. Please like, share, and subscribe so we can continue to bring you more old lost mine stories.